Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I hope that you are enjoying the holidays. When this episode goes live, we should be right in between Christmas and New Year in 2024. So we are wrapping up the year of 2024, and I hope that you're kind of chilling. I hope you're kind of winding down and resting and ending the year with those that you love, because that's what I will be doing. So today we are chatting with my friend Candice Dennis. She is an art teacher at the Dunham School in Baton Rouge, but she is also an artist, and she has created something really special for creatives like you and me. I have this product that she's created. We're going to be telling you all about that in today's episode and hearing her story and hearing about her journey and how this product came to be. And I am not going to tease it anymore. Without further ado, let me introduce to you Candice Dennis. Welcome to The Composed Artist, the podcast where we explore the intersection of artistry, entrepreneurship, and self-improvement and continue to pursue a more composed life. I'm your host, Stephanie, an artist specializing in live wedding painting, living in the vibrant and soulful city of New Orleans. Over the past decade, my job has taken me all over the world, meeting and creating art in front of thousands of people, and has allowed me to create a colorful life for myself and my family. Now, I help other artists build confidence, develop their techniques, and fall in love with the art of live wedding painting. I invite you to join us for inspiring stories of creative journeys, practical tips for running a successful art business, and honest conversations about the joys and challenges of running a studio and being a parent. This podcast is here to keep you company, keep you entertained, and is full of resources to help you on your journey to create a business that feeds your soul, makes an impact, and is insanely profitable. The Composed Artist is the podcast for the bold, creative, passionate, and genuine artist. Let's get started. That's another thing. I was thinking, I don't know why I thought I could get away with, like when I was like, oh, I'm going to start a podcast. I don't know why I thought I could get away with like sitting in the dark in my closet recording stuff. I have to put on mascara and, be somewhat presentable every single time. And it's just a lot. It's been like, okay, recording day. But then my husband comes home and he's like, you look lovely today. What did you do? I'm like, oh, well, I guess it was worth it. It's been a lot of fun. We've just been kind of creating entertainment and creating stories and lessons. And I'm putting out what I would love for someone,
Right.
another live painter or another artist to put out.
Yeah.
I've been listening to more artist podcast. What kind of podcasts do you like to listen to? Are you a podcast girl?
Oh yeah. And I listen to some art, some that are just like, Joe Rogan or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I'm a self-help kind of girl. So anything that's like in that genre.
Yeah, same. If I have 30 minutes of time, like if I'm washing dishes or a lot of times when I'm cooking and I'm kind of in the kitchen for an hour, oh yeah, I'll put on like a true crime. Or Joe Rogan is great because they're so long. The episodes are so long and they're just, it's like you're a fly on the wall of conversation between someone who's genuinely interested and really smart, the way that he retains information, and then he can have conversations with brilliantly minded people. And I mean, it's just really entertaining. And then I feel like I'm learning something. So I agree.
Yeah, I was like, the first one I listened to, I was like, it's 3 hours. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to take a couple of days for this, but okay.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, if you pop it in while you're doing your chores or in the car, it's like it goes by really fast and you're like, oh wow.
I know, right?
Next one.
I know. I was like
that's
never
so
an
funny.
Audible girl. And lately, because I've joined 2 book clubs, I'm like, oh yeah, I pop in the earbuds and I'm like, this makes cleaning or doing the dishes pretty enjoyable because I'm listening for the next like thing to happen,
Yeah,
So anyway,
same.
tangent.
I like audiobooks too, because I could paint. So you're a painter
Yeah.
too. What kind of art do you like to do?
I tend to gravitate towards portraits.
Really?
I like drawing hands. I like butterflies, but portraits are my go-to.
Mm.
and in a couple of different mediums, but probably just like graphite or watercolor would be my most comfortable. But I'm branching out. I'm trying more oil painting, but not that comfortable with it yet.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of
Mhm.
original work or do you do a lot of commissions? Like what is your balance
Um,
there?
I used to do mainly commissions, and then
Mhm.
this year I decided to say no to all commissions.
You're so
And
brave.
it was hard. It was a tough thing to do, but for me, like I see that you like that's your thing. Like you do commissions with like your live paintings, like it's like all commission based. And for me, I wasn't. It's too like overwhelming. Like I could never be a live painter. Like it's too overwhelming. I like to take my time or like my own pacing or whatever it is. But also, I wasn't finding like joy in some of the mediums that
Mm.
people would, want to hire me for, whether it was a logo or, a family portrait or, I mean, it was anything, but I was like, I can do it, but I'm not really finding the joy in these things anymore. So I was like, I've never really focused on the art that I want to do, or I get frustrated and then just stop. But I was like, I really want to spend, if I'm going to do this year of like singleness and selfishness, like I'm going to focus on the things that I enjoy doing. So I have to say no to all other things. And so I did. I didn't take a single commission. So
Oh my gosh, I want to hear about your year of singleness and selfishness, but can you please tell your story? Who are you, Candice? What kind of artist are you? How did you end up being single and creative and on this part of your journey?
I'm an art teacher. I currently teach at the Dunham School, so I teach anywhere from like fifth grade to upper school kids.
Mm.
This is my 13th year teaching. This is not what I originally planned. At first, LSU, I graduated at LSU and I was an apparel design major with a business minor. So after I graduated, I went off to Los Angeles, right during the recession. So it was
Perfect
quite
timing.
the struggle. Yeah. Did not take my mother's advice, on not going. So I interned there, fell in love with it. And I thought, Mom, this is where I'm supposed to be in life. And so I went out there. It took me about 3 months just to get like a bartending job, just to wait tables or whatever it was. And so it was stressful. My rooming situation was also kind of a nightmare. But anyway, so everybody said give it 2 years. And I gave it about two and a half and didn't recognize myself at the end of it. So I was working three jobs pretty much at a time, like assisting a stylist, bartending, working retail, just random odd jobs, set design. It was a love hate relationship. So at the
Mm.
end of that 2.5 years, my mom was pretty much like, either you're coming home or I'm coming to get you and like dragging you with me. So it was a tearful journey all the way home as like, oh, this was like the first thing I really failed at
Mm.
and didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I was like, okay, well, what's next? And my mom, because I was just like in a slightly like dark place from it and didn't know what to do, my mom just kept pushing, pushing, pushing. And I ended up doing an alternative certification for teaching. And that landed me in a science position. So the good thing about that is like through your certification process, you get paid as like a full-time teacher through that first year. And so I will never forget like that interview. It was one of the best interviews I had. And I remember there was like cows across the street. And I was like, I think this is like where I'm supposed to be. It was like in the country about 30 minutes outside of here. And so I
Mhm.
was like, okay. So I got that job. I was there for 10 years and they were like family to me. I taught science for 2 years and then I luckily got the art job my third year. So I taught anything from set design, graphic design, study skills, like just visual arts. A yearbook I taught for like 7 years or publications.
Mm.
So a little bit of everything. And then I moved to U High for a year. I was in Westville for another year. And now I'm at the Dunham School, which is very much a God thing. And I always said I wanted to be a full-time artist, and I still do have that like hunger to have a little bit more freedom. However, I love my new job so much. I started in August, and I'm like, I could definitely see myself retiring there too.
Oh,
So,
I love that. So
mhm.
did you teach art in all of those different schools as you moved around, or did you take different subjects?
No, I stayed in art. I was like, I can't backpedal now. Now that I'm like in art. And so, what funny thing about it is when I was going to like major in something, my mom was like, "What are you going to major in?" And I was like, "I think I want to be an art major." And she's like, "Well, I mean, what are you going to do with that? Like teach?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to be a teacher. Like, they don't make any money." And
Yeah.
so, how did I sucker them into letting me, like major in apparel design? Because I'm pretty sure she was like, "You're on your own at paying for it if you want to be an art major."
Mm.
And now I'm like, "Look at me, mom. Should have been an art major. Like, here I am, like 12 years into teaching art." So, but I love it. I absolutely love it.
That's okay. I was a graphic design major, and you learn more after you graduate in, real life, like
Hmm.
scenarios, different jobs. I'm sure you learned more about teaching art and explaining art and explaining creativity and, helping guide people. I'm sure you learned more during that period of time than you would have in art school to a degree. Some programs are more classical, some programs are more diverse. I know
Hmm.
like SCAD is very diverse, and they really help their students
Hmm.
in while they're in school. They also help them work, and they hire them to do jobs. And that's wonderful. I have a friend, Chloe Campbell, who was on the podcast earlier, and she went to SCAD and had a wonderful experience. I went to LSU as a graphic design major, and I only ever had one painting class, and now I'm a painter.
Hmm.
So, you pick up skills over time. That's really awesome. So, are you in your exploration on your own while you're not doing commissions? Do you
Hmm.
Are you able to put aside like a chunk of time, or are you squeezing it in? What is your like teaching load balanced with your creative exploration, that load? Like how's that
Yeah,
working?
so I'm a full-time teacher,
Mhm.
which can be a lot to take the energy when I come home. So if I'm getting home
Mm.
right now, like at 4 o'clock, it takes a lot to like try to find the motivation to start in the afternoons. And
Yeah.
I'm an early bird. I'm more of a morning person. So for me to start in the afternoons, I tend sometimes to choose more of the comfort zone than I do,
Mhm.
more of like the healthier habits. However, like you just have to start. Like that's the biggest thing is like just
Mhm.
starting it, and then I immediately get the motivation as I keep going. But for right now, my chunks of time are weekends, and then thankfully, all of these lovely holidays and breaks that we get as a teacher, I take advantage of those. So.
That sounds like so much fun. You may have heard me talk about my little side business, my little fine art print shop. I create an original painting, I take a photo of it, and I print it, and I print it again and again and again. I make hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars a year on prints. It's so easy. And I learned everything I know about creating my own prints and printing them in house from Laurie Ann Gonzalez and her Art to Print course. I highly recommend, if you are an artist and you want to make easy money from your original works and even the commission works, you can resell those as prints. I recommend you check out Art to Print. Laurie Ann has a very direct way of teaching, and you are really going to appreciate her no fluff method of giving you information and telling you exactly what you need to do to make making fine art prints in your own studio a breeze. You can check her out online at learn.laurieannart.com. That's learn at LAURIEANNEART.com, or just click the link in the show notes for my affiliate link. Check her out and thank me later. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy teaching
Mhm.
the art side of it. It's a huge challenge. It's one thing to do, it's one thing to create the thing or to practice in your own craft. It's a whole nother thing to explain what you're doing in words and then demonstrate
Mhm.
and show people when you're teaching your kids, when you're,
Mhm.
putting your doing your lesson plans or things like that. Is there a medium, or is there a genre of art that you really lean towards or gravitate towards that you really love the most?
I definitely for teaching, I try to get like explore everything. Even the things I don't like.
Mhm.
So like I don't. I'm a very organized artist, which can maybe be a little bit rare. So like I don't love working with pastels or
Mm,
charcoal or any of that, but we do explore it. I love watercolor. That would be my go-to, or just working in graphite. Like I can do
mm,
those two and be completely like, content in those two mediums. But I do like to see, I try to preface like to everyone that I teach, there's going to be certain mediums as well that you love and certain ones that you hate. Some are that you're better at, some that you're not. And the good thing, like you were saying earlier, they always say like the best way to learn something is to teach it. And so I have found that I'm way better at some things that I used to absolutely like hate or not want to touch, just because you do have to model it first and figure it out and problem solve it. And like 10 years in, it built some skills that I didn't have before, that are outside of like my natural skill set, I would say. But I enjoy teaching. I really do, especially to those who, really gravitate towards it, with like young minds that are,
yeah.
their imagination, sometimes like they blow my mind. I'm like, man, like what happened to that childlike, part of me? So
Yeah.
that's what I think keeps me going or keeps me inspired, in that teaching realm of things. So
That must be really exciting to see the kids progress throughout the school year. Do you help facilitate, I guess, acceleration in that area? Like if you see one or two students who are really excelling and they need to be pushed or they need to be challenged more, do you provide a different type of exercise for them, or do you kind of try to set them up with furthering their craft or their practice?
yeah, so throughout the year, I mean, like, and based on grade levels, since I basically have like five different preps. So starting from that really young age, you're kind of doing the building blocks and then building them up. Um, the biggest thing is for them is to kind of show persistence, overcome, like frustration, but really it is like problem solving. So you can't compare yourself to where the person sitting next to you is at.
Mhm.
So we just did portraits, which is one of like the hardest things, for students to learn that. So of course we start with the grid method, but some people can do it without the grid. So definitely pushing people in that. But one of my favorite things to do is towards the second semester, like building collections. Like, can you create this cohesive thing? And then you get to basically choose your own subject and medium. So what I love about that is I let the kids do the research, they get approved for it, and then I can see their progress throughout, but they're working on something that they're passionate about. So the first semester, I'm going to teach you all the building blocks. And then the second semester, you're going to take those things and you're going to apply them in the medium you want and the subject that you want, versus everyone in the class doing the same thing. So I've done that, for the past like 3 years. I started building that, and it is a game changer. It's like completely magical to see when they get to choose, like more choice based. It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
I've noticed that in my own kids. If I give them a choice,
Hmm.
it could be, they don't want to brush their teeth. Okay, do you want to use the pink toothbrush or the blue toothbrush? You get to choose, but you're gonna do it.
Hmm.
Giving kids the autonomy over their choices whenever possible. They're able to take the reins and you know take pride in what they're doing. That's so exciting. Oh my gosh. I love that. I feel very
Hmm.
passionate about teaching as well. So I just love what you're describing. That sounds like a lot of fun. I used to be so scared. I mean, terrified to bring oil paints to a wedding or an event that I was painting at, until I realized that Gamblin has me covered with all of the mediums, the paint thinner, the varnish, the whole gambit. I love using Gamsol as an odorless paint thinner. Okay, this is what I use to wash my brushes to thin the paint. I use a big jug of that to slow the drying time. If I'm trying to finish a painting and layer and do all of that, I use Galkid. It's a very thick medium that I love to use with my oil paints. And let's say it's very dry, it's a very hot and dry environment. I love to slow the drying time with refined linseed oil. This is my medium of choice for my oil paints. And when the painting is dry and I'm ready to send it off to the client, I varnish it with Gamvar. high gloss. That's my preference. And Gamblin has you covered with your preference as well. You can visit their website, www.gamblincolors.com. That's spelled GAMBLIN colors.com, or you can click the link in the show notes to shop my preference for oil painting mediums. Check them out and thank me later. Okay, so you have mentioned that you have been on a journey this year,
Mm-hmm.
a journey in singleness, and I want to know about that. How because you made a decision to say no to commissions, and
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you made some big decisions and set some big boundaries for yourself this year. What made you decide to do that, and how have you seen growth in your personal life and your creative life and things like that? How's it been going? How's it going?
It's been going great. A couple of years ago, um, I was actually recommended a book called Single on Purpose. And I read it and I thought, hmm, I was like, man, this sounds great. Like, I think I want to do this. And then I was like, 2 weeks later, I met some guy and I started dating him. And then I was like, that didn't work out 6 months later. And I was like, see, I should have focused on my year of singleness. And so
Yeah.
after that, I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm going to do it. I was like, I'm committing right now. And so this was last December. And I was like, I'm going to commit. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to focus. Because, like, when you're an art teacher, you tend to create art lessons and you
Mhm.
put that, like, for me, I put that first. And then commissions were next. And then all these other things, like, kind of pull you in different directions. And then I would feel at some point there was always the burnout. And then there was like frustration. And then that frustration came from like not filling my own cup of like not creating what I wanted to create. And I didn't like who I was in that frustration. So I was like, okay, well, I don't have, like if I'm not in a relationship, I have all this time and I don't have to like really answer to anybody else. I'm going to do my job and I'm going to do that well. And at least I have, so many years of experience that makes it easier for me so I can focus on these new projects. And so at the beginning of the year, I decided that. And then when I say like God has shown up in my life repeatedly over this year, I got my new job in August and I started there and I met these amazing people. And it was just one interesting connection after the next and little things. So like one day I was on the computer and a course popped up and it was called Print School. I was like, this is interesting. And so, sure enough, it was this whole thing on like, how do you, you know, print this thing that you want? And it was stunning. It was beautiful. And she goes through this whole process and she's like, we start in January. And I was like, huh, there we go. First project. And so what was great about it for me is I had just completed a planner through Amazon KDP.
Mm.
And then I got it printed and I was so proud of myself for doing that one thing. But then I got it in and I was like, it's just a little like subpar. It's a little
Mm.
mediocre. It's not really what I want. Um, so this course was going to I could make it exactly what I want. I can make it beautiful. And then my friend Ahmad years ago, he told me, he's like, you know what, Candice, he's like, you need to make your first pancake. And I was
Mm.
like, such an interesting way to say it. And I was like, I love
Yeah.
that. So like my Amazon KDP planner was like my first pancake. So it wasn't
Yeah.
perfect. It wasn't beautiful, but I tweaked it. I learned all the mistakes. I used it this entire past year. And then I took all these courses and stuff and made it into something I absolutely love. It was a lot harder than I thought it was, but then I was like, okay, well, I can do this thing. And now that I have 1 year under my belt, like,
Mhm.
this will be much easier next year. So the planner came up, and then the next thing that happened in March was I did Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. It was like a 4-day conference or whatever. It was
Mhm.
crazy. And I went into it skeptical. I'm not usually like that, but I was just like, I don't think this is going to change my life. Um, but it really did. So there was like this one little exercise that they did on like day 3. And I was like, wow, I never want to do that again because it was really painful, but it opened my eyes to say, if you don't start taking like massive action in your life, it's going to continue to like stay the same. And that's why I was so frustrated. I was like, I
Mm.
don't want to be in the same place next year. I don't want to be in the same place 10 years from now. And that's what like really hit me. And I'm like, I can read a million self-help books and do all these coaching calls and courses or whatever, but I have to take the action on them. And I've done, a million things, but wasn't really taking the action. I was just consuming knowledge and then not
Mm-hmm.
doing anything with it.
Yeah.
And so I signed up for a year worth of coaching through like the Tony Robbins platform. And it was like one thing spiraled into another. I signed up for an art market. I signed up for another art market. Like I did a Kickstarter campaign, which was a first and really hard.
Mm.
So it's just those little bitty things kind of just stacked on top of each other. And I'm like, okay, now we are here a year later. And this is my first podcast ever. And then thanks to you, it's like my first affiliate program. So it's like I'm ending the year on a high note and
Yeah.
very grateful. And so I didn't feel lonely at any point, which I thought I might. I'm like, this is going to feel like, I would say this, not lonely in the sense of like intimate relationship or romantic
Mm-hmm.
relationship. Times where I felt lonely was like, how do I connect with other artists that are in the same, like that want the same things, that are passionate about the same things?
Yeah.
Like, how do I find that? Because even through marketing this, it's been difficult sometimes. And then sometimes you talk to one person and that leads to like 5 new relationships.
Yeah.
Um, so those kinds of things, I call them like God taps. So the fact that my year has been a year of very little resistance, I trust that. So
That's so interesting that you say this year has been one of little resistance because you've
mhm.
tried so many big things and you've built um, something that like physical that I'm looking at right here. And I can't wait to talk about in a minute. But I mean, looking back, the growth that you've experienced, the growth in yourself. And you also mentioned not feeling lonely in the sense of like an intimate relationship. But
Mhm.
how many of us are married or in a relationship and feel lonely because of the world and the bubble of being a creative, you know?
Yeah.
It's a shared experience that I know
Mhm.
we all feel. We're in our rooms. I have a very small studio in my house, and a lot of us are in kind of a similar setup, or whether it's a small studio or a big warehouse, like you're going after your goals and you're doing the creative parts, but you're running the business and you're doing the aspirational things and the vision casting, and then you're doing admin and you're all the parts of a creative business, and still surrounded by people who you feel maybe you couldn't talk to about it because they wouldn't
Mhm.
understand. They wouldn't understand the pull between, you know, like for me, being a mother and being present and there for my kids, but also being an artist and wanting to paint and
Mhm.
not just paint the commission on the list, the next commission on the list, but also how can I push the bounds of my, my style and grow as an artist and all the things. It is a shared experience. You're not alone. That feeling of loneliness. I'm nice to meet you because now we can be friends and now we can call each other up or send voice messages and say, "Girl, what a week."
Yeah.
Like I value that relationship with other artists. And
Yeah. And I don't
so
know why I like wrote the narrative for myself that I needed a year of singleness. And for
mm,
some people, that might be true. Like I needed it. But what
yeah.
gives me a lot of hope too is like, even being in the stage of life that I'm in is, like my best friend just, got married and had a baby. And
Mm,
then all my friends are at, kind of like in that area. And I don't feel left out by any means, but it does give me hope to say, like, when people are a full time artist and they're also a mom, I'm like, if they can do it, I can do this too. So that gives me hope. So,
yeah, you can.
mhm.
Yes, it can be done. It is hard, but it's like it's a promotion. You get more responsibility, more. Where I saw a little video and it was this little old lady and she said, a lot of people talk about motherhood as like losing yourself or your former self dying away and now, now you're a new person, and in a
Mhm.
way that's right, but it's perspective. So Another
Hmm.
way, is anytime you grow or anytime you kind of like shed your skin and become this new version of yourself, it's a
Hmm.
promotion. You're enlightened
Yeah.
to certain responsibilities or certain drives, like at
Hmm.
the drive of entrepreneurship, especially as a creative. If you feel driven to run your own business or be self-employed or pursue something entrepreneurially, it has to be this innate thing, because if not, you can't. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, that sounds wonderful. I'm happy for you that that this year has been so fruitful. Any
Thank
other,
you.
like, what other lessons did you learn? Maybe learn about yourself, or learn about what you want, or what's important to you.
I have learned a lot of patience, more than anything. But the organization through like the course that I took was tremendous. Like to break it down into bite-sized pieces. Like I know what the end goal is, but like the strict deadlines, I'm like, hey, you need to be done with X, Y, and Z on this date in order for them to get shipped in time, and then you have to, like bank on anything going wrong. Like we had that whole East Coast, like all the ports shut down.
Yes.
And I was like, oh no. Like it was right when my stuff was like
Oh
shipping and I'm
God.
like, no. And then thankfully mine came West Coast. And but no, like you have to account for all those things. So there was a learning curve for me, which I was just so proud to say, Candace, you can do hard things. Like,
Yeah.
and then even if though they were hard, it's like you can do hard things. And marketing was one of the hardest things for me this year. And it was working on, well, how do I not be like cringeworthy, to people if I'm trying to sell this thing that I'm super passionate about. And a lot of times feeling like other people just don't get it, like how do I
Hmm.
make them get it? And so that was one of the hardest things was like kind of, and it's still like a learning curve, like learning the marketing. That's where I'm at, right now. But other than that, it's really just when I say like little resistance, I've noticed in my life and before this year, when I force things, and I've done that some this year, like signed up for that art market last minute and forced
Yeah.
it. And immediately it took a toll on like my physical health, like my body.
Yeah.
So when I don't force the things and I just like allow it and do it from joy, and I did eliminate those commissions that weren't bringing me joy, and it's just from creating, whether that be at my full-time job teaching or it's like on a weekend and I'm not forcing it and just allowing saying like, okay, well, what do I feel like doing today versus it always having a plan. Like sometimes it's better
Hmm.
to do that. And sometimes if I'm staring at a blank page, it's, well, I'm just going to take a course. I'm going to go and like
Hmm.
take someone's class and it's going to help me to start. And as long as I can start, it'll get into like the flow of things. But starting is the hardest part. So yeah, huge learning curve this year. Marketing being my number one. I still feel cringeworthy, but trying to
Yeah, it's tough.
overcome it. But yeah,
Selling
life
is
is just
tough.
easier. So
Yes,
it is.
selling and marketing takes a certain energy that is not natural for
Yeah,
most
I'm
of
like,
us.
what would be my first hire? The marketing person. I'm like, I love filming it all. Like I can film it, shoot it, like I love that part. But
Yeah.
writing the copy on it and no, like I don't like editing either. So I'm like, that would be my first hire.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about affiliate programs, is that you
Hmm.
find a handful of the right people who get it,
Yes.
who
Yeah.
feel very, very passionate about what you've created, and then you say, "Okay, go." And then you shoo them off, and then they help you with that. And then
Yeah.
there's trust built into that, because, we have our audiences. So that's why I invited you on the podcast. Honestly, I wanted you to share this thing that you've created
Hmm.
with my audience. So what I'm holding right here is a beautiful planner for creatives. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see how beautifully bound, how beautifully, foiled on the edge. This planner, it's like a book. It's not just a little pamphlet. This is a beautiful planner, and it was created for creative entrepreneurs, for creative people like me. So I'm your target market. This is perfect. And you have written on here, it's a 2025 planner, and it says the creative climb. What is the creative
Mhm.
climb?
So, I wanted a way to, and I had no idea, I guess, starting this, but I wanted a way to brand it that was separate from my art. And I thought, how do I start a brand of something that I could build on? And
Yeah.
I just kind of came up with that name, and like with the vision of artists kind of climbing together. And a lot of times, we see people at the top, and I take the courses from those people because we're trying to aim from there. But I'm like, I don't really have anybody like in the grind of it right now on this
Yeah.
level or foundational level, like in the grit of things. And I'm like, I kind of want to pull people in all on this level. Like instead of saying, okay, well, I'm trying to follow this person who's done it for 10 years. Let's get people who are trying to do it right now. And every group that I joined, the biggest thing was accountability. Like everybody was looking for accountability. And
Yeah.
so I had 20 lists and 20 different places and some digital and everywhere. So I was like, I want to organize all this knowledge from all these, different places into one place. But I also want to create a membership, like looking forward to say like, hey, this is a beautiful planner, but are you going to use it, like
Yeah.
for what it is? So like, hey, let's keep each other accountable and
Hmm.
like check in with each other every month, plan each month, and us all creative minds coming together and bringing their own like expertise or entrepreneurship like journey that's
Hmm.
involved. So I was like, what can I call this? The creative climb already came up, and then I was like, well, this is great. Like now for the accountability, like maybe I can start a membership. So that's new. It's very raw, and so I'm planning to launch that in on January 1st
Oh my
and
gosh.
do a little free workshop to try to launch that to say, hey, if you think this is for you, or if you have the planner, you don't have to have the planner, but would you just like to plan your month with people? Because then that reduces the overwhelm and
Hmm.
creates accountability. So,
I love that idea. And then there's like idea sharing and inspiration whenever you're feeling like completely unmotivated, seeing other people.
mhm.
Like you said, if she can do it and she's got kids, so there's something about seeing other people also like overcoming what seems to be like incredible struggle and obstacles and, all the things. That's a great idea. I love that. You seem to be organized, especially as a teacher, juggling a lot of like
Mhm.
lesson plans and the different levels, age levels, and everything. You have to be very organized, and you seem like you're more organized than me. I recognize that you seem to have it a little bit more together than I do. How important is it for a creative to use something concrete like a planner and not just work from scraps of paper with lists written down, kind of like I do sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, that part of me definitely, my mom, brings in that she's a very organized person. But it was like, I was learning so much from all these people way ahead of me in the game.
Yeah.
And I thought, I love this nugget of information and this nugget and this nugget. And it was just chaos and like five different binders and not being able to find anything. And for me, I'm like, no, no, I need to simplify this process. Like for us as artists, when we're more efficient, I feel like with those things, then you have more time for creative play. So I needed a more efficient system. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to combine all this stuff into like, I love a planner and I wanted it to feel like luxury in my hands. And so I was
Mm.
like, okay, I'm going to make this for me specifically. And then I'm like, but other people are bound to want to use this. There's got to be other people like me. I just try to take all those bits of knowledge and put it into one place. And there's a quote, one of the things that made me kind of hone in on like the measured part of it. Like, are you measuring your progress of
Mhm.
how much are you growing? How much are you profiting each month? Through the Tony Robbins stuff, he kind of hones in on that as well. But there was like a quote from, I think it's Peter Drucker, if I'm saying that right. But it's like you can't manage what you don't measure. I think it's something like
Mhm.
that. And so I kept hearing that over and over in the Tony Robbins coaching was like, well, if you're not measuring it, like, how are you growing? How do you know if you're growing? And so, and then I had this other, Lisa Jacobs has this great workbook called Your Best Year Yet, or Your Best
Mm-hmm.
Year. And she talks about like growth and profit. And it was such a good workbook. I did it last year. So I was like, okay, well, how can I measure all these social media tools and like do a blog and do all this stuff? And there's too many things I need to do for one human being.
Yeah.
And I don't have a team. So how can I organize it to make it easier and more efficient with my time and other people's time? And I like a handheld. I'm not really a digital girl, but I like the handheld. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, to keep it for years to come, I'll just transfer the knowledge that's in here, like my expenses and income, into a CSV file or something as well.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I like that too. I like to write things down and scratch them off, and I really appreciate, like, I
mhm,
use the note app on my phone for my kind of daily brain dump, like my daily kind of, I know
mhm,
I need to do it here, but if it's not written down and if I can't check it off, then it's just kind of, I may lose it. I may forget. God forbid I forget to do a thing. And so I love that the note app has the little, you can make the little bubbles and just tap them and it'll fill in the bubble. Like it's like a physical tick mark,
yeah,
if you will. Um, but something that I love about a planner is that when you sit down and you sit down and you set your goals.
mhm,
We talk a lot about, like in the course and with my students and just me in general, I like to think long term, like 5-year goals, and then
mhm,
break it down into yearly goals and then quarterly goals and then monthly goals, and like what do I have
mhm,
to it breaking it down into smaller goals and points to aim for. It helps provide a lot of clarity
mhm,
surrounding the big picture thing that I want, and it makes it sheds a light. It makes it so clear what is not aligned with that goal. So saying like
mhm,
your year, and I don't know if you want to keep talking about it, but your year of singleness is a very clear prioritizing, my time and
mhm,
my goals as my personal goals, and like setting aside, I'm not I'm not going to allocate time to a relationship or pursuing or, dating, because that takes a lot of time and energy. Dating, meeting new people, telling the same
mhm.
stories all over and over again, answering the questions over and over again, like I know. And I know we were joking before we hit record, but I tell my husband all the time, I don't know if I'm going to do this again. This is exhausting. So, I get it. I totally get it. But it makes setting these goals makes saying no to things like shiny objects a lot easier.
Mhm,
It's a lot simpler. And they're still shiny objects, but if it's written down what you're aiming towards, it's so much easier to say no to the shiny objects and to the things that aren't aligned with your goals. So I love the product you've created. I love the presentation of it. It does feel luxurious, and I'm excited to offer a link. So in the show notes for this episode, in the links below on YouTube, you can click my special link and then you're offering a discount on your planners right now as well, right? What's the deal with the planner?
So for your link, so I did the Black Friday sale, but that's over with. So the
Yeah.
only way that you get a discount right now is by using your link, 20% off. So I believe that's Compose 20, and you'll get 20% off.
Okay, so you click the link and then you type in composed, COMPOSED 20 at checkout, and you'll save 20% on the creative planner for the creative climb. That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's exciting. I'm excited to have
Mhm.
one in my hands. I can't wait till January 1st. I am going to keep it in the beautiful box that it came in. Oh my gosh, the production, what course did you take for creating this product?
So this was print school.
Print
And then
school.
actually to create like the pattern for the box and like the end sheets,
Mhm.
I've taken Bonnie Christine's immersion course for like 4 years.
Amazing.
So that's how I created the pattern. So I was like, well, obviously I have to make the pattern myself. Like I can't just, use someone else's. So
This
yeah,
is stunning. I love Bonnie Christine. I love that
yes,
you are a student of hers, because everything she touches is
I
just,
know.
it's
My
so
favorite thing
authentic
about
and creative.
her is, yeah, transparency. She's so transparent. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite things.
Yeah. And she's so calm. I love
Mhm.
listening to, I love her podcast, The Professional Creative. She's just wonderful. She's a
Yes.
gem,
Yeah.
at very much a gift to the creative world. But I'm looking at the box. It's
Mhm.
stunning. In fact, I'm going to show everyone. No, I'm not. You have to order it. I'm not going to show you on YouTube. You have to order the planner and then get
Yeah.
this
Keep them
beautiful gift
curious. Yeah.
box. Yes, I love it. This is so exciting. Okay, so we have a planner. We've got something to start. I know a couple of friends of mine have one already, and we are going to be accountability partners and start working through the planner in the new year.
Mhm.
And this is so exciting. Thank you for sharing this with me and with my audience, Candice. This is
Thank you so much for
exciting.
having me.
Are you still using cheap art supplies? Look, you don't have to tell me, but if you want to level up, you have to use better supplies. Come on, let's invest a little. I've been using Rosemary and Company for my paintbrushes for the past 5 years or so, and I have never thrown away one of these brushes. The quality is unmatched, and they're like reasonably priced. I hate to say it, but they're the best. So I love a long handled paintbrush. Okay. I love a hog hair or an ivory, which is kind of a mixed bristle hair. And Rosemary and Company, they have like so many options. So I would check them out. The website is www.rosemaryandco.com. That's Rosemary spelled Rosemary and co.com. Or you can just click the link in my show notes and it'll take you directly to my personal wish list. It's all the brushes that I use and recommend. So check them out and thank me later. I wanted to ask you a few questions that I ask all
Mhm.
my
Okay.
guests because I'm generally curious, but also I always learn something. So my first question
Mhm.
to you is, what is one skill that you learned in a previous job that helped prepare you for your current role?
Um, hmm. I would have to say, I think just I don't want to say in a previous job. I would still say in my teaching job, but maybe in a
Mm-hmm.
like another teaching job that I had before this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is setting boundaries. Because when you are the art teacher or you're creative or even in your family, everybody thinks you can do all the things and maybe you can do all the things, but they don't realize like how long it takes or the
Mm-hmm.
process. And so I really had to put up some big boundaries to say, I can't do all these birthday party and family things or whatever. So I think setting boundaries has been great for me, whether it's in the workplace, but also personally for like this year. It was huge for me. I think it was like the number one step because I realized that I don't want to say it was a flaw in my personality, but I do tend to put other people before me. Um, and it was hard, but also refreshing to put myself first. And sometimes that felt wrong. But at the end of the year, I accomplished way more than I would have just by simply saying like no and having better
Yeah.
boundaries.
Yeah, you're probably very like mentally healthy as well. Like you have done yourself such a service because you know yourself and know what you deserve and like yourself so much more intimately than um a lot of us who went from relationship to we didn't take that time. I'm speaking about myself here, we as a collective,
Mhm,
giving myself the boundary of no, I'm just going to take some time for me.
mhm.
I
Yeah,
I think that's important for women and I mean people in general. Just take time for yourself, and that way you can pour from a full cup when the time
yeah.
comes. Like
I
I
think
so admirable.
one of the important things I kind of try to hang on to is I don't know where I heard this, maybe in a book or something, but they said, remember to continue to date yourself. Even when you're in a
Hmm.
relationship, remember to like continue to spoil yourself, date yourself. And
Hmm.
so I try to tend to do those things like on a Sunday or, whenever it is, I'm like, I'm going to light the candle, I'm going to take the bubble bath. I'm going to go to a really nice
Hmm.
restaurant. I'm going to splurge on this fancy bottle of wine and I'm the only one who's going to drink it.
Yeah.
Solo party of one. But it was just like, I'm going to indulge in the nice things, but for myself, I'll buy
Hmm.
the fancy PJs or whatever it is. But it's like,
Yeah.
so I, spent the year dating myself. And so, yeah.
And celebrate the wins,
Yes.
celebrate the wins
Hmm.
and learn the lessons and carry on and wake up the next morning and Yeah, I love it. What a beautiful life. I'm so happy. I'm happy for you, and it's making me think about my own life and my own. Sometimes you get stuck in the routine of like, oh, I got to do this, and get up and
Yeah.
there. When I feel like I'm going on a tangent, but I'll say it anyway. When the kids wake me up, I feel like I'm
Hmm.
behind, because I'm
Hmm.
like scrambling immediately. But if I can wake up just 5 minutes, if I can be the first one awake, and then I could just collect my thought. There's something really
Yeah.
really calming and centering about having time to yourself. 100%. I agree. Okay, the
Hmm.
next question.
Okay.
What is a secret or what is a trick that you have that helps you stay motivated or get motivated again when you've been taking a break? Creatively, productivity wise, in general.
I think I might have said this earlier, but it really is like taking a class. I love learning.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could soak up knowledge all day long. So one of my favorite courses, not a course, but like a platform that I have found that has super cheap courses from anything that you can think of is Domestika. Have you heard of it?
Ooh, no. Writing that down.
Okay, so I think it's domestika.org. You have to be careful. It's mainly like there's a lot of Spanish like courses. So if you're not, like you can do the subtitles or whatever. And I've taken many of those. But they have built this platform. It's a great thing. You can find a little bit of it. It's kind of like a Skillshare. So a little bit of everything. But I'll find if I'm stuck or just don't know where to start, or feeling burnout and just want to find some joy and something playful and learn a skill, I'll just go there. You buy a course for like 99 cents or sometimes it's $5. And
Oh
these are
my
professionals
gosh.
in their field. And I'll just do one of those courses. And
What's one that
then
you've taken that's been really memorable?
Uh, one of the recent ones that I absolutely loved combined pattern making with Photoshop because I've learned it in Illustrator
Ooh.
through
Mhm.
immersion,
Mhm.
but didn't have the Photoshop capability.
Mm.
So that was a really good one. And then because I love portraits, but I'm not as comfortable with oil painting, I've just recently purchased two of those as well. So
That's exciting.
excited. Hmm.
Ooh, I use oil, so I hope you're having fun with them because I love them.
It's like I said, learning patience.
Yeah. Learning
I'm
a new
like, I like
medium.
acrylics because it dries so fast.
Yeah. Yes, it is like challenging like that. Oh my gosh. I know
Hmm.
you mentioned earlier watercolor being
Hmm.
your thing. And I struggle with watercolor because it requires so much patience, like layering, letting the layers dry and planning to like the transparency of it is just like that's out of my comfort zone. It's wild. Okay, what's a piece of advice that you have for other artists? The question is, are artists now coming into this space because we, chat with a lot of live wedding painters, so like wedding
Hmm.
industry, live painting specific. But in your case, what advice do you have for new and emerging artists?
I would say do, I mean, like take action every single day, like whatever it is, whether it's on the website or whether it's in a community, just take action in a small step every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the craziest thing for me, for some reason, I thought I lived on an island over here, just because my immediate circle of friends are not artists or creatives. So I was like, well, I feel kind of alone on this island. Like, am I the only artist? And then um, immersing yourself into like your local community. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was terrified to do that art market for whatever reason, just because it was out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And so then that one, relationship that you make kind of starts building. And then, you massively just like all of a sudden have this completely new friend group of people that you kind of share these common goals with. So, like, I would definitely say little small actions every single day, no matter what it is. If it's 10 seconds of something, and then immersing yourself with other creative people. And if you can't find it locally, then do it online, like join a Facebook group or whatever it is. But that's been huge for me.
Yeah.
And to realize, like, it's not that small. Like, there are other people in the world besides you trying to do the same exact thing. You just got to go find them.
That's really clear and simple advice. And it's such a profound problem that we all face, that loneliness,
Mhm.
that feeling like you're on an island in surrounded by
Yeah.
friends and family who love you but don't get it.
Hmm.
Um, it very understanding of that mentality. Good advice. Thank you. Okay, so where can people follow on your journey and follow along with the creative climb, learn more? Where can we find you?
So my website is candicedennis.com, and then I am on Instagram as The Creative Climb. And I'm also, my art account is candicedennis.artist.
And how do you spell Candice?
Candice, Candice.
Candice.
Yes,
Denise.
my nickname is Dice.
Candice Dennis. Oh my gosh, you were so wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and for hanging out with us today. Thank you for sharing the gift that is this creative planner. I cannot wait to use it. I will be posting about it and sharing about it. Again, everybody, you can click the link to purchase this bad boy and save 20% by using the code COMPOSED. That's COMPOSED 20 at checkout and save 20% on the planner. And please follow Candice and her journey. And she's going to be kicking off this membership,
Mhm.
the Creative Climb, for accountability. If you want accountability
Yes.
for your
Mhm.
yearly and monthly plans, do it. I love it. Thank you again, Candice. You are so sweet and you're not alone. I'm very happy to make a new friend.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
You're so welcome. All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on this journey of artistic exploration, entrepreneurial growth, and personal development. Remember, you have the power to create a life that is both fulfilled and balanced. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe to The Composed Artist on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And don't forget to leave us a review. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more creatives like you. Until next time, keep creating, keep dreaming, and keep pursuing that composed life. You got this. All right, I'm gonna let it run for a second. You mentioned the pancake, the
Oh,
product,
yeah. Mhm.
making the pancake.
Mhm.
I'm the oldest of 7 kids. And when
Mhm.
my husband met my parents for the first time, he came over to the house and we were having like a bonfire and there's like a bunch of children
Mhm.
running around. And he asked my mom, he was like, how did you do it?
Mhm.
How did you do it all? How did you parent, all these? And she took that question to mean like you as a parent, how did you do it?
Yeah.
And she said, well, it's like when you're making pancakes, everything you're doing, you got to figure it out for the first time. And so you just got to I don't know, you just figure it out. And he heard, because I'm the oldest and we ended up getting married, but he was like, oh, okay. So I got the burnt pancake. I'm stuck with the burnt pancake. And that is just the running joke in my family, completely out of context. Now I'm the burnt pancake because
That's
I'm the
hilarious.
oldest.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
I thought
hilarious.
that's it's
Yeah.
such a good analogy for doing something for the first time, though. So I love that.
So I have this big dream to do this children's book illustration or whatever that I've been holding on to for like a decade, and I just can't do it. And so in that conversation, he was like, well, just do any children's book right now that's like you're not emotionally attached to.
Mhm.
And he's like, it's like your first pancake. Like, just get that one out there just to say you can do it. And then maybe there won't be so much weight on this one that you've been
Yeah.
like hanging on to for 10 years. And I was like, you're right. Should
Oh,
just do it.
that's so
Um,
good.
yeah. So I was like, okay,
That's
my first pancake.
I love it.